a TV show. It's on, it's called the Everyday Women's Channel.
Okay.
And I'm on there, but that is not live. It's like pre-recorded. But I'm starting to get guests on there and stuff like that. And so same thing, it'll still be pre-recorded.
Yeah.
And then the plan is to turn those into a podcast, right? Like just
That's
taking,
super cool.
I'm not doing double the work. Yeah.
No, that's so good. Yeah, I was gonna say you should totally start a podcast. I'm like, it makes so much sense for what you're doing. So yeah.
I know. It's just like I'm not like overly techie. And so it's like I gotta figure out the ways of doing everything, right? And get it right. So
Like the step by steps kind of a thing. Yeah.
Yeah, the step by steps,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Did you paint your room recently?
No, so my house is a show home. It was a show home. Your
Okay.
dad helped me get it. But every room is like show homey, right?
Oh, so it's all
This room is a yellow room. So like the walls are yellow. This is my office, but the walls are yellow, and like the bathroom, which is that one right behind me, it's got like wallpaper, but it's like candy cane wallpaper. It's like really loud and
it's kind of fun. Yeah.
It is. It's fun. It's Ziana. So Ziana likes it. So it's fine, but it's a little much for me. But eventually one of these days I'll paint the walls and change things around. But
exactly. How's she been?
She's been good.
Yeah.
She's 12 now. And so she is now into a lot of her friends. That's her thing. And so this summer she's been going out with her friends. So right now I just went to drop her to Tim Hortons, and then they'll walk to a friend's house, and then they'll walk to another friend's house, and they'll be out till 8 or 9 o'clock, and then she'll come home.
Kind of scary. You're only 12. Were we doing that when we were 12? I don't remember now. Maybe.
I remember going to the movies at 12. I remember that being a big thing for us, right?
That was huge.
But it was cheaper, right? so these guys, they can't go to movies because it's so expensive, right? And so they hang out at Tim Hortons.
Or was it meet up at the mall and walk around at the food court?
Yeah, meet up at the mall, walk around, and go to movies. And so this is kind of the new age thing of that. So.
And how's your mom and dad doing?
They're doing good. It's nice that they are now just 3 minutes away from me. So it makes it easier. Yeah. So when I go to work, I drop my dog to them, and they help me. They help me a lot. And it's just good just to be close by. Right. Yeah.
It's interesting to see is like where time went.
Yeah. Yeah. It's crazy. I know.
I think you had something in June you posted about our, and I was like, holy smokes, is it already been that long?
Yeah, it's been 7 years. So June is 7 years. Yeah. So it must have been his anniversary post that I posted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because Mom's was on Sunday, 3 years. And I was thinking, holy smokes, like how close they were. And Arif would come by and drop off pomegranates for my mom. And it was pretty cool. Yeah, he's such a cool guy. And I remember my mom was like, I can't make it, but you have to go, or his funeral.
Yes.
So I went there in overalls, and it was interesting.
Yeah. There was a lot of people at that funeral.
Oh my goodness. Well, so young, right? How old was Arif then?
He was 44. Yeah.
And then remember growing up with him around in Kane and volunteer with I think he had like a mullet or a rat's tail. He had something way back.
He had a mullet for years. People always ask me, did you marry him with the mullet? Yes, I married him with the mullet. There's a picture up here.
Is there? That's awesome.
Of him with the mullet. And then eventually he got rid of it. But I never... it didn't bother me. Like he never told me what to do with my hair, so why should I tell him what to do with his hair?
And it was cool. I thought it was different. It was out there, and I was like, hell yeah, I like it. Otherwise, it's boring, right? He's like everyone else.
It's like everybody else. Yeah, it's right in the middle of everybody else. Yeah.
And he was truly one of a kind of a human. So
it just fit the bill. Yeah, for sure.
Exactly. How has that transition been though, going from a happy family, everything, to a traumatic experience, to not only that, but having someone that relies on you, which is your daughter?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is me finding my way, as well as still being there for her. Like, I think what like sometimes the pandemic was really tough, because I didn't have another adult to talk to, like everybody else had
Yes.
their own nuances of it, but they
Yes.
at least had another adult to talk about their fears and whatever. And, I had to be the strong face for her, but I didn't have another adult that I could like be like, oh my God, like what is happening in this world, and so that trend, like that part of it is a little bit, ups and downs with it. But I think a lot of it is just finding out who I am, because I think what happens is that I got married really young. I was 23 when I got married.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was, a girl slash woman, and then I got married and I became a wife and a mother, but I don't think I was really me in that time. Like I was lost with being a wife and a mother, and then after he passed, it was a matter of finding out who I am and what I like to do by myself and for myself, as well as being there for my daughter and being the best that I can for her. So it was a lot of like alone time at home and just trying to figure out what it is that I want to do with my life. Obviously we had plans as a couple, but now that all changed. And it's like, coming down to like, what is my goals? What is most important to me? And, what do I want my life to look at, and it does change, because when you're a couple, there's different nuances, like, double income and, the things that you want to do as a couple. But once you go through the loss, then it's like, okay, what do I want to do now for me and for my daughter? And so, a lot of soul searching in that period.
Absolutely. And it's not like your daughter was going to be 18 next month. It was,
Yeah, she was
she's still,
5.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
remember because my mom and Arif were very close. I remember my mom was saying, don't know if I got it right, but she was saying that you guys were going to fulfill a couple more wishes of Arif, which was camping was one of them,
Yeah.
and Disneyland, I think it was.
Yeah, Disneyland. He wanted to be the one that took Ziana to Disney. And so that was one of the first things we did once we found out that, they said he had 6 months. The next thing, like we got home from the hospital and we started looking at tickets to book a trip to Disney. And we booked a trip to Disney. We took her to Disney. And if you talk to Ziana about her fondest memories of her dad, she will bring up Disney every single time.
Oh my goodness, I love it.
It was the most amazing trip. There was times where, he wasn't well enough to be at certain things and he would kind of disappear. And we had a hotel pretty close to Disney, so he could walk back and forth. But it was still probably the best thing that we ever did. It was right early on where he was still, somewhat strong and was able to do that versus waiting to do it. I think it was probably the best thing that we did it right away, as soon as possible, so that, we could do that together as a family.
What was it like though, in terms of the two of you, the two adults, kind of realizing, okay, well, 6 months, that's not a long time. Your priorities shift. What is important? What wasn't important in life? What were we blinded by, trying to chase when all this was here? You start realizing things, and obviously, once the loved one is gone, I think what you said is you started realizing who you were. You don't want to be that old person again that you once were, right? So you start shifting, and then again, the pandemic comes, and it really hones in to say, who are you? Can you sit alone? Are you okay? Are you comfortable within yourself? And of course, we have days that are ups and downs, like just like anybody. But I think it's beautiful to see people that take the time to go within themselves, right? So for you, I guess, what was it like realizing you have 6 months?
So I tell this story often is I remember being told that, he only has 6 months, and being at Tom Baker and them telling us that. And obviously I'm crying. And then a social worker comes in, and the social worker hands me this tissue box and says, this is going to be the most beautiful journey of your life. And I remember thinking in my head that I just wanted to punch her in the face. Like, I was just like, right? Like,
Wrong time.
yeah, you know, like I was like thinking in my head, like, has this woman ever had to say goodbye to a loved one? Like, what is she even thinking about? And she hands me this tissue box and she says, trust me, this is going to be the most beautiful journey of your life. And at that moment, I wasn't, you know, obviously listening or ready to listen, but it honestly was a beautiful journey, because if you think about it, if you take out, you know, a lot of the stuff that we focus on, that we were just really focused on making the most of every single day, because we didn't know if we had tomorrow. And so it was living each day to the fullest, getting rid of all the junk that you know, kind of fill your day with, and really just making every single day as impactful as possible, and ensuring that everybody in your little world felt special, you know, and could wake up the next morning knowing if something did happen, that they were okay with what happened yesterday, you know. And so it was a really beautiful journey, to be quite honest with you. As much as I wanted to punch that social worker in the face at that time, if I look back on it, it was a beautiful journey. We, you know, made sure we went to bed with saying I love you to each other every night. You know, we didn't get into fights. We only talked about things that mattered, you know, really. You know, he got to plan his funeral. He got to plan, you know, things to do for the wake. He got to plan all of that stuff. And those are things that people don't normally talk about or don't want to talk about, but we got to talk about all that stuff. And I knew that after he passed, everything I was doing was everything he wanted. So, because I was able to have that time, and a lot of people aren't blessed to have that time, you know, but, you know, we were blessed with that time and we were able to make the most of it.
You know, it's beautiful that you think the same way in many ways that I do, where it's, you know, count your blessings. Don't be like, well, why wasn't he here for, or why wasn't my mom here for this event or this thing? It's like, no, whatever they were there for, we're grateful for and we're thankful for, not why they're not here for this.
Yeah.
And you remember those great happy moments. I think that's a really good way to rewire things. And then also be thankful with that silver lining that, hey, you know what? Yeah, we had these X amount of months with our loved one. Many people don't.
Yeah.
And then the ability to say goodbye.
Yeah.
The pandemic showed us people were doing it via FaceTime on iPads.
Yeah.
Could you imagine that? Oh my
No,
God.
I could not imagine that. Throughout the whole pandemic, I kept thinking that, you know, Arif would have hated that. He would have hated not just being sick during that time, but even just being healthy and being alive during that period of time. He would have hated it. He would have hated every single minute of that. And so, you know, I think back and I think, like, you know, they do say things happen for a reason. And, you know, I think he would have hated that. And I would, if he was sick, that would have been horrible to deal with, you know, having to say goodbye over FaceTime, on an iPad, you know, like that would have been horrible for my daughter for sure too.
hmm And even for the person that's passing away, you know, it's also the dignity of life, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's been interesting. Yeah. I was listening to something that you said, and you said the power of no.
Yeah.
That is so important, but it's something we all got to learn. How did you learn that? Because you know, being a yes person all the time can probably get you in trouble.
Yeah, and you know, I'm a self-identified people pleaser, and you know, it started to really weigh on me. And I think it was after Arif passed away where I realized that I need to put some boundaries in place, because there was so much of me that it was being demanded of, and things that I was sort of feeling guilty about, and things I wasn't really, you know, maybe even being forced to do, you know, that I would have maybe done before because I just would have gone along with it. But, you know, my time became so valuable to me because I didn't have another person that I can pass certain things off to. Just, you know, something simple as, hey, can you take the clothes out of the washer and put it in the dryer? I didn't have somebody else to do that for me, right? And so my
No, for
time
sure.
became very precious and very valuable to me, as well as I realized how short life actually is, and you know, and I really came down to what my priorities are and what I want to accomplish in life. And I learned the value of no, and to be able to have those boundaries and really create those boundaries. And so maybe if it is, a family dinner and I can't attend, it's like, unfortunately, I'm not able to attend on this date, but can we reschedule for another date, or is there one in the future? And conditioning those people to be like, okay, I actually have to give a couple of days notice to people so that they
Mhm.
can arrange their lives around this. And it's not just at a drop of a dime anymore that things are going to
Right.
happen. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, hey, you want to come over? No, I can't anymore. It's not like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like that,
Yeah.
and it took a while, and I wanted to throw in the towel and be like, well, I should probably just go back to saying yes. It's easier, because it is easier to say yes than it is to say no.
Yeah.
But saying no has allowed me to be free and happier and have joy. And when I do say yes, I'm happier to be there, because I've
Mm.
chose to be there versus being forced to be there.
Right, like, oh gosh, it's like you're coming to this event. I don't want to go, but all
I
right.
don't want to
Yeah.
go. And imagine your energy, right? At those events that
Yeah.
you're forced to go to versus one you're choosing to go to. Your
Mhm.
energy is completely different.
You had over 20 years of experience in the financial industry.
Yes.
What made you start utilizing social media? Because that's really cool to see. And that really got my attention to say, oh my God, Zara, you're killing it here. I love it. The content's fun. You have a humanization to it, which is yourself. And then you also bring your daughter in to show, we're a family. And you put your vulnerability out there, but not in terms of pity, but more or less empowerment, which is beautiful to see. It's saying, yeah, you know what? I've faced the darkest of times, but you can still shine bright. And you resemble that. So how did that happen?
I think it was something, I guess, with what happened in my life, being a financial professional for so long, when we were given the 6 months, really finances was something we didn't talk about, because we both felt that I would be okay with it because I have a background in finances. When we got married, Arf said to me, do you want to do the finances? And I said, no, I do everybody else's finances on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah,
I don't want to come home and do the
do
finance.
ours. Yeah.
Right, you need to do it, you need to learn, and so
Mhm.
and I said I would supervise, and really over time supervising became non-existent. And so
Exactly.
we just both felt that I would be okay because of my background. But what happens is that when you go through grief, as you know, there is brain fog that comes with that. And there is, abilities of not being able to do certain things and not wanting to, you just don't want to do it. And so there were times where I just
Mhm.
didn't want to do a lot of the financial aspect that I needed to do. And it got me thinking that if I struggled so much with this, even with my background, how many other women out there struggle? And I know that when I did work at the bank, there was times where I would see, women who had had a loss or had a divorce, and they're stuck and they're struggling and they don't know what's going on. And it's not a matter of they don't want to be a part of it or they didn't want to learn. It just, life happens and you just end up taking roles on and things like that,
Mhm.
and you just don't know, and it's not taught in schools, and it's we're not taught a lot of this stuff, and
No.
our parents didn't teach us this stuff. And so really I wanted to go on and start empowering women and teaching women, but not like the stuff that the financial gurus out there teach, because I have a completely different thought process than all of that. I feel like a lot of the old school financial gurus that are out there, they are geared towards men and rich white men, to be quite frank, and I didn't want to speak that language. I wanted to speak to the women, because women, when money comes in women's hands, so many good things happen, and if we can learn how to
Oh yeah.
be financially literate, we can teach our children, and we can do so many amazing things with it.
Right. Did you see it also in cultures where women had a hard time understanding.
Yes.
Yeah. Is it
Yeah.
because the lack of passing the roles or the batons or
I think so. Maybe it is the lack of giving it, but it's also the kind of set roles that are, like I always say that there's like pink jobs and blue jobs that kind of happen in a marriage, and so in my marriage, like Arif, filled gas in my car, and he washed my car, and he did all the car stuff, and I did the laundry and the cooking and the cleaning, and so in those roles, then it's like the financial aspect usually falls to the man, and the woman gets so busy in the children and all the other stuff that it doesn't, there's no crossover. And I think that the marriages that I've seen that are absolutely amazing with the finances is it's a joint effort, and it's maybe it's monthly family meetings where it's like everybody sits down and talks about the budget, and everybody talks about what's going on, and it's open, and everybody is involved in that situation. But in normal life that doesn't happen, and so it'd be nice if people started to do these family meetings, and we have family meetings, Ziana and I will have a family meeting and we'll talk about things. And I think it makes it easier to say no to your child when they know what's going on. When you say, okay, like this month we're saving up for Christmas, and so if you want to have a good Christmas, we kind of got to get tight a little bit this month so that we can have a good Christmas. And your kids understand that, and they're like, okay, yeah. And so then they stop asking for the $2 toy at Dollarama,
well,
and
those $2 add up, don't they?
it does
We
add
know
up.
that.
And when you have those open discussions, and when women are involved in those open discussions, it just makes it more of a family unit, and everybody kind of comes on board and you can make decisions together. But also, in case anything happens, everybody knows what's the plan. Like, what's the plan? What was our plan for the future? What were we doing with this money? How much money do we have? How much debt do we have? All of that.
How you said during the pandemic you felt alone, there was not another adult in the house to talk to. It's kind of funny because there's the other side where there's two adults talking, but they didn't want to talk to each other. And
Yes.
and then there's obviously the unfortunate part of that where there were divorces happening, and men and women going separate ways. In a pandemic, you don't know what to do with yourself. Life is falling apart globally.
Yeah.
How did you realize that you could show your skills and what you do online, though? I think that's super neat that you found a way to come out of a darker time, but not just come out personally, but say, let's go online and talk and share stories. How did that happen for you?
Well, I actually really love social media. Like
Do you?
I
Okay.
I love Instagram. I love TikTok. I love all of it. And I was always on,
Yeah.
social media. And so, I think it was around the pandemic time, I started to see reels coming up more. And I was,
Yes.
and I was like, this is something I can do. And they were fun and they were light, and I could make light of things and have some fun with it. And that's really what I started doing,
Mm.
was just creating some fun reels, and they started to take off, and just started to have fun with them. And having a child that is Gen Z in the house, she's like my little mini social media
I love
manager,
it.
and she
Yes.
helps me with things, and she'll be like, hey, you should do this reel, or you should
Yeah.
do this TikTok. And so it just kind of goes from there. And I think it helps get the word out there, helps people see things. But it also, in talking about money is, unfortunately, it's not sexy. It's kind of
No, it's
boring.
not. But
Yeah.
why do we relate it always to something very taboo or ugly to talk about money? Like,
And
why
that's
is
the
it like
thing
that?
that I want to break down, is that it is okay to talk about money. And I talked about it, is that when one girls' night, we'll talk about our sex
Mhm.
lives all the time. We'll talk about
Yes,
it,
very true.
but we
Yes,
won't talk about our finances. And it's like, those are two kind of taboo things, but we're more likely to talk about
yes, you're
what's
so
happening
right.
in the bedroom versus what's happening in our bank accounts. And if we just change that dialogue a little bit and get rid of some of that stigma, if you start talking to your friends, I'm pretty sure a lot of them have the same fears, the same guilt, the same anxieties that you do around money. And, maybe there's something that you guys can create from that. Maybe there's a financial club you can create, or like, like a book club, you can create like a financial club amongst yourselves and learn a new skill every time, and really break a lot of that stigma down.
Right. I like that you post certain ways to budget or better ways to budget. I think recently you had like a checklist of some sort, and I was like, wow, that's pretty handy. I actually even saved it on my phone.
That's awesome.
I loved it. I was like, this is great. It's a tool, it's something you can go back to and say, okay.
Yeah, and it's a tool, and like I said, we've never been taught it. And so a lot of times people will say, and I remember saying this in the bank, like, oh, you need to budget. But the person who you say it to is actually scared to tell you that I've never done a budget before. Like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, I know the word budget, but I don't even know where to start, And so they leave your office with this, you think you gave them such great advice, like you just need a budget. And so it's a matter of, just breaking it down, making it small, making it easy and simple, so that, that barrier is gone. And so you can move on to, other things that, okay, from the budget, you can see where all your money is going, where you can cut down, how you can start investing, what kind of goals you have, and all of that.
Well, I think, okay, so here's the other thing. It's like they say, oh, budgeting is boring.
It is.
Now, when you are trying to budget, what are some of the things someone should start with or look at first? Should it be dining? Should it be, where should someone start exactly?
Well, I always tell people that if you just want to do like the lazy girl budgeting is what I call it, right? It's really pick three categories that you overspend on. Everybody has three categories that they could pick, right? And so for me, it's Amazon, it's coffee, and it's winners, right? Like those are the three that I tend to overspend on. And then just grab the last month's statement and grab three different highlighters and just highlight each category, or each of those in different colors and add it up. And then just make it your goal that next month you want to beat that number. And so maybe it was you spent $75 in Amazon last month. Okay, so this month you're going to be like, I'm only going to spend 50 and see if you can beat it and really start making it a game. And then you can start really getting into the habits of it, because once you're mindful of the fact that you overspend in, those three categories already, right then and there, you're going to start being more mindful when you go click an Amazon to go buy something,
Absolutely,
It just creates those things in your brain where it's like, okay, maybe I shouldn't do this. Maybe I shouldn't think about this. And then having the game part of it where it's like, okay, well, I'm trying to beat $75, and even if it's $69, you're better off, right?
Exactly, than 75. Yeah.
Then 75. And then the next month you're trying to beat, last month's number. And so, that's really the best way to get started, is just something as simple as that. And that is where you're going to start really cutting down on some expenses and seeing where your money is going.
For sure. You have a book out there that people can get a hard copy of, or via online.
Yes.
I gotta see this thing. Oh yes, this is amazing.
It's
Lucky
called
with
Lucky with
Money.
Money.
Awesome. I love that. Good for you. How was that as an accomplishment? That's huge.
It was huge. I always wanted to write a book. And so I did, and it's here, and I'm excited about it. I took it from an aspect of, so when my parents immigrated, obviously from East Africa to Canada.
Yes.
And, we're a family of four, kids, and so my sister was already born in East Africa. And when my parents came to Canada, my mom was pregnant with my brother. And so my brother was the first one that was born in Canada. And then I was born 16 months later. And they said that when I was born, their rags riches story sort of started. And so the minute I was born, their story changed. They started seeing, more wealth. They started seeing things. And so I was told my whole entire life that I was lucky with money and that I brought the wealth into the family. And so I've always held that narrative in my head that I'm good with money, and I've always been good with money, and I brought in money. And so that's what this talks about, is the fact of how, how my story played in my life,
Mhm.
and how, the stories that we've been told as children sometimes play with us and
Right.
really affect our money stories. And if you think back to what your first money memory is, my first money memory was that I was told I brought wealth into the world. But
That's so cool.
a lot of people were told that money was evil. And so it makes it this taboo thing. And you just have this bad relationship with money versus,
Mhm.
people who are being told other things in their
Yeah.
lives about money.
And here you're welcoming it with open hands and saying,
Yeah.
okay, I can control you. I can learn from you, and you can try to do something, but I'll move back. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, is it about preserving the money or always making more money? Or is it finding a way of both? Like how it's a balance all the time, right?
It's a balance all the time. Yeah. It's about, obviously living within your means, but
Yes.
also increasing your income, whether through side hustles or better jobs or
Mhm.
negotiating higher salaries or anything like that. Or, and then also making your money work for you. And so investing and, getting your money to work for you versus it's sitting in the bank and the bank making money off of it.
Exactly. Yes, and giving it back out. It's a cycle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you look at your life and goals, and we both know life can be all and end all at any time, any moment. How do you say, when I'm 60 years old, this is the goal I want? Do you live that way, or do you say tomorrow or today, this is how I want to feel and this is my goal of the day?
I think I live my life in a way of what my goals are, but not tied to age. It's
Mm,
about
I like that.
the lifestyle that I want. And so what is the lifestyle that I want? What do I want my dream day to look like, and really live in that space, live in that world, and really aspire for that. Yes, it's great, obviously having long-term goals and long-term objectives, but also knowing what your values are. Like, what do you value? And so I often tell people, like, I have a cleaning lady, and somebody will see that as a luxury item, but
Hmm.
I see it as it paying for a cleaning lady every 2 weeks frees up time for me, because my value is
That was
spending
my
more
mom.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's spending more time with my child, and I value
Hmm.
spending more time with her, making more memories with her, that it's okay for me to pay that kind of money. But somebody else might actually enjoy cleaning their house and be like,
Oh
no,
yeah.
no, no, I don't want a cleaning lady, because that is my self-care moment where I get time to myself and I get peace and quiet and all of that, and that's fine. And so it's a matter of what your values
It's
are.
like a landscaper or gardener and vice
Yeah,
versa. If you enjoy it, sure, exactly.
exactly, right. And so just knowing what your values are and then aligning your goals with your values, and once you do that, you end up in pure alignment with your money, and you know exactly where you want it to go and what you want it to do for
Hmm.
you.
So do you plan every month and say, this is how much I'm going to spend, or this is what I want to spend? And then I think you wrote something about having an emergency fund.
Yes.
That is important, that I think people should start looking into if they haven't already. Especially with this recession coming around, you know, it is a fear, right?
Yeah.
People,
Yeah, and I think an emergency fund is really important. A lot of people don't have emergency funds, and so building a base emergency fund of like 3 to 6 months emergency, just in case if something goes wrong, your furnace goes tomorrow, or you got a major car repair that has to happen, you've got money for it. And for me, I like things in like separate bank accounts, and I like to label them. And so, banks nowadays, you're allowed to rename things, right? And
yes.
so, I have multiple savings accounts, and things go into each of those buckets. And so, it says emergency fund, so that when my eyes look at it and I see the money there, I know that that's for emergencies only, but I also have a travel fund because I like to travel. And
Yeah,
so,
so
yeah, and so then I look at that, and when I see some money in there, I know I can use that for travel,
exactly.
and because, my mind, the way that it works is that if I have money that's set aside for long term, I don't want to dip into that to go travel. Like I
No.
feel bad when I've dipped into that to
Yeah.
go travel. And so when I have my travel fund, I can do it guilt free because that money was earmarked for
Fun
travel.
money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun money. I have a shoe account as well.
Oh, I love a shoe. Oh, yes. I love that. That's amazing.
Yeah, there's also a shoe account. So then I know that I can just, I can spend in those categories
Hmm.
that are important to me and not feel guilty.
Exactly. But it's awesome that you save, but you also budget, yet also have fun when you want, right? And I
Exactly.
think that's important too. The whole balance of yin and
Yeah.
yang.
Because what's the point of money? I heard somebody tell me this long time ago was that coffins don't have drawers. And
Ooh,
people want to take their money with them, and what's the point of it if you can't use it and enjoy it and have fun? Then what is the point? You
yeah,
really want to make sure that it's there,
exactly.
it's serving a purpose for you, but you're able to still have fun in life and live the life, a joyous life.
Exactly. And I think we've seen that before where people, are grumpy or not happy in life and have all the money in the world, but they're not doing anything with it. They
Yeah.
don't travel, they don't live. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably not a great place to be, is it?
No.
Yeah,
So coffins don't have drawers. That's a
I
good
love
one.
it. Yeah. Well, thanks again, Zara, for this. Appreciate it today.
Thank you so
Who'd have got
much.
it?